So, before we start our discussion for today, please lead the prayer Miss Pauline. Let's stay in it. Amen. Good morning once again. I am your teacher for today. I am Miss J.Ann de la Torre. For our lesson for today, please read what's written on the board, please. So, that's our lesson for today, quadratic equation. Do you know or do you have any idea what is quadratic equation is? Okay, thank you. Before we are going to continue, let's take a look on our lesson objective. So, the first objective will be defining what is quadratic equation. The second will be solving quadratic equation using the zero factor property. And the third objective will be solving quadratic equation using the square root property. And the fourth is solving quadratic equation using completing the square. And the fourth and the last will be solving quadratic equation using a formula which is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So, together we are going to meet the objectives. What is quadratic equation? Quadratic equation is a function which describes a polynomial of degree 2 is called a quadratic equation. So a quadratic equation is one which must contain a term involving x squared. Example, 3x squared, negative 5x squared, or just x squared on its own. It may also contain terms involving x, for example, 5x or negative 7x or just 0.5x or 1/2x. It can also have constant terms. These are just numbers which is, for example, 6, negative 7 or 1/2. Just like that. It cannot have terms involving highest power of x, like x cubed. X cubed, that's not a quadratic equation. It cannot have terms like 1 over x in it. In general, a quadratic equation will take the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. A can any number excluding 0. B and C can any b number including 0. If b or c is 0, then this term will not appear. A quadratic equation takes the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where a, the variable a, b, and c are any real numbers, but the variable a cannot be 0. So remember, a quadratic equation is a second degree equation. It is a second degree equation. Okay, thank you. So, I have here exercises for you to determine what is really a quadratic equation and which is not. So, let's go on with this first one. First example. So, x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Is it a quadratic equation or not? Okay, from table 5, please answer. Or what is your name? Okay, Angela. What is your answer? X squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Okay, it is a quadratic equation indeed. So, number 2 example will be 4x minus 5y is equal to 20. I want that table 1, to answer, please. Okay, it's you, Pauline. Pauline? Okay, it is not a quadratic equation because a quadratic equation is a second degree equation. Does it have second degree equation? Example number 2? No. So let's proceed to number 3. The number 3 is g of x is equal to x squared plus 1. Okay, I want that table number 3 to answer. Okay, please answer, Miss Alex. Okay, it is a quadratic equation. Number 4, I want that table 4 to answer. What is x? The quantity of x minus 2 squared plus 5 is equal to 0. Is it a quadratic equation or not? Okay, it is a quadratic equation. So, let's move on to the last. Number 5. F of x is equal to 5x minus 8. 5x minus 8 isn't a quadratic equation. So, always remember that a quadratic equation, second degree equation. Now that you have already learned what's quadratic equation and can already identify what is quadratic equation or not. So, let's begin on solving the quadratic equation using the zero factor property. So, what is zero factor property? It is when an expression ax squared plus bx plus c in a quadratic equation is easily factorable all over the real numbers. It is efficient to factor and then apply the following zero factor property. Zero factor property if a and b are complex numbers with a, b is equal to 0, then a is 0 and b is 0 or both equal to 0. So for example, let's have an example for this. This is equation. This is the equation. X squared plus x minus 6 is equal to 0. So it is already in standard form. So what we are going to do now is to factor them out. So the factor of x squared plus x minus 6 is equal to 0 is x plus 3 and x minus 2. So let us equate them. So we have x plus 3 is equal to 0 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. So x plus 3 is, we're going to equate them and let's put the 3 on the other side. So, x plus 3 is going to be x is equal to negative 3. So, the second one, which is x minus 2, will be x is equal to 2. So, that is zero factor property. To check this, we are going to use the original equation, which is the x squared plus x minus 6 is equal to 0. So, let x, so we have our answer here. X is equal to negative 3 and x is 2. So, let's substitute the value of x, which is negative 3, in the original equation. So, we have negative 3 squared plus negative 3 minus 6 is equal to 0. So, we have 3, we have 9, then plus 3 minus negative 3 minus 6. So, we have negative 9. So, 9 plus negative 6, we have 0. So, the answer here is 0 is equal to 0. So, let's try on the second, the other factor, which is the other answer we have. We got x equals 2. So, let us substitute 2 in the x. So, we have 2 squared plus 2 2 minus 6. So we have 2 squared equals 4 plus 2 equals 6. Minus 6 is equal to 0. So we have 0 is equal to 0. So that's it for the example number 1. Let's take this another example, which is 4x squared plus 9 is equal to 12x. So it is not yet in its standard form. So we are going to make this in standard form. So we have now 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. So that's our standard form. So let's factor this. So we have 4x squared minus 6x minus 6x plus 9 is equal to 0. So what happened with 12x? So we have to divide them. So we have now 2x, the quantity of 2x minus 3 minus 3, the quantity of 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So we have this factor, we already have factored. So we have 2x minus 3. Then the other factor is 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. We have now 2x minus 3 and 2x minus 3. So we are going to equate them into 0. So 2x minus 3 is equal to 0, while the other is 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So it has the same, so we're gonna only use 1. So 2x is equal to 3. 2x equals 3. So on the right side we have 2x, and on the right side we have 3. So to remove the 3, we have to divide it by 2. So on the left side we're gonna divide it into 2. On the other side we're gonna divide it into 2. So 2x we have to cancel, cross them. Then what is left is x. So we have now x is equal to 3 halves. So that would be the value of our x. So to check this, we are going to use the original equation, which is the 4x squared plus 9 is equal to 12x. So we are going to substitute 3 halves in the x. So 4 times 3 halves squared plus 9 equals 12 times 3 halves. So we have now 3 halves squared is equal to 9 fourths. Then multiply by 4, we have 9 plus 9 is equal to 18. So on the left side we have 12 times 3 halves is equal to 36 over 2. So 36 over 2 is 18. So 9 plus 9 is equal to 18, and on the left side we have 18. So it is equal. Next we'll solve quadratic equations using square root property. So square root property, when a quadratic equation can be written in the form x squared equals k, where k is the constant. So for example, we have x squared is equals to 9. So the 9 is the constant here. So we have to put radicals on the left side and on the right side, which is x. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 9 is 3. So we have here, and the answer we have x is equal to 3. So let's check using our x, which is 3. X squared, let's substitute that with 3, the x. So x, 3 squared 9. So 3 squared is 9. So 9 is equal to 9. So that's it. So let's proceed solving quadratic equations using completing the square. Suppose we wish to solve x squared minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. In order to complete the square, we'll look at the first two terms and try to write them in this form. So clearly we need an x in the bracket. So x plus blank squared. Because when the term in the bracket is squared, this will give the term x squared. We also need numbers negative 3 halves. 3 halves, which is the half of the coefficient of x in the quadratic equation. So we have now x minus 3 halves squared. Because when the bracket is squared, this will give the term negative 3x. However, removing the brackets from x minus 3 halves squared, we see there this is also a term negative 3 halves squared, which we do not want. And so we subtract this again. So the quadratic equation can be written x squared minus 3x minus 2 is equal to x minus 3 halves squared minus negative 3 halves squared minus 2 is equal to 0. So we are going to simplify them. So x minus 3 halves squared minus 9/4 minus 2. So x minus 3 halves minus 17/4 is equal to 0. So next, x minus 3 halves squared is equal to 17. So we are putting the negative 17/4 in the left. So x minus 3 halves is equal to the square root of 17 halves. So x is 3 halves plus the square root of 17 divided by 2, or we say 3 halves minus the square root of 17/2. So we can also write this solution as x is equal to 3 plus x is equal to 3 plus or minus negative square root of 17/2. So that's it for our solving using completing the square. So I hope you learned from that example. And lastly, we'll be solving quadratic equation using a formula. The formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Consider the general equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So there is a formula for solving this. So as I mentioned earlier, so the formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus b, the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Suppose we wish to solve x squared minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. So, comparing with the general form, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, we see that our a is 1 and our b is negative 3 and our c is negative 2 from the example we are going to use. So the example is 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. So our A is 1 and our B is negative 3 and our C is negative 2. Then we are ready to substitute the values into our formula. So substitute our A, B, and C. The values of A, B, and C. So we have negative B, which is negative 3. We are going to substitute that. Plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC. So our B is negative 3. Then minus 4 times 1. C is negative 2. So 1 times negative 2. So over 2A. So we have negative times negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2 over 2 times 1. So we have now 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 8 over 2. So what happened to this? Negative times negative 3 is positive, so we have 3 there. Get? Final will be 3 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 2, and that's our answer. So that's how we solve quadratic equation using the formula I mentioned a while ago. And voila! That's it for our discussion for today. First, we solved quadratic equation using the zero-factor property. The second is we solve quadratic equation using the square root property. Completing the square root is the third. And the fourth is the formula given, which is this formula. So I am giving you now an exercise for you to answer. So I will be posting, this is the exercises for you to answer. If you have learned something from the discussion, answer the following exercises given. So, that's it for today. And thank you and God bless. So, prayer first. Prayer, then we'll say goodbye to each other. So, can I ask Mr. Pat from table 6 to lead the prayer? Amen! So thank you for listening for my discussion today, and I hope you have learned something. See you